The basement was cold again. I pulled my thin blanket tighter, listening to the laughter drifting down from upstairs where my family was celebrating my sister Isabella's new promotion. The familiar sound of crystal glasses clinking, of expensive shoes clicking against hardwood floors, of life happening above while I existed below. At 25, I was still living in my parents' basement, not by choice, but by their decree. Madison doesn't need a real room, they decided years ago. She's not going anywhere in life anyway. My sister Isabella got the master suite with its own bathroom. My brother Oliver had the room with the private balcony. And me? I got the unfinished basement with its concrete floors and exposed pipes, complete with a camping cot that squeaked every time I moved. The only person who ever treated me differently was Grandma Rose. While my parents lavished attention and resources on my gifted siblings, Grandma would sneak down to the basement with cookies and stories. "They don't see your light, sweet girl," she'd whisper, "but I do." Now Grandma was gone, passed away last week in her sleep. The funeral had been yesterday, a grand affair where my siblings had performed their roles perfectly. Isabella, the successful corporate lawyer, gave a touching speech. Oliver, the brilliant surgeon, shared poignant medical stories. And I stood quietly in the back, wearing the only black dress I owned, purchased from a thrift store. Madison. My mother's sharp voice cut through my thoughts, echoing down the basement stairs. "Come up here. Your sister is making an announcement." I climbed the stairs slowly, emerging into the warm, bright kitchen that I was only allowed to use for basic meals. My family was gathered around Isabella, their faces glowing with pride. As I was saying, Isabella continued, barely glancing at me, "The firm is making me junior partner, the youngest in the company's history." More crystal glasses clinked. More congratulations flowed. My father beamed with pride. "That's my girl. Always knew you'd make us proud." Oliver chimed in from his position by the expensive coffee maker I wasn't allowed to touch. Between my new position as head of neurosurgery and Isabella's partnership, the family name is really soaring. My mother nodded, then glanced at me with familiar disappointment. If only all our children had such drive. I thought about the secret I'd been keeping for the past 5 years, the online business degree I'd earned at night while they thought I was wasting time on my laptop. The small investment portfolio I'd built using the money Grandma had secretly given me, the patents I'd registered under a different name. But none of that mattered to them. In their eyes, I was just the family failure, the cautionary tale they used to motivate my siblings. "Work hard," they'd say, "or you'll end up like Madison." "Don't forget about tomorrow," my mother announced. "The will reading is at 10 a.m. Everyone needs to look presentable." She shot me a warning look. "Madison, please wear something appropriate. Maybe Isabella can lend you something." Isabella smirked. I doubt anything of mine would fit her. I retreated back to my basement, their laughter following me down the stairs. What they didn't know was that Grandma Rose had visited me 3 months ago, her eyes twinkling with her familiar mischief. "Everything's arranged," she had whispered, pressing a small key into my hand. "When the time comes, you'll understand. Just remember, sometimes the ones they underestimate are the ones who surprise them most." I hadn't understood then, but tomorrow at the will reading, everything would change. The next morning, I arrived at Mr. Patterson's law office wearing my thrift store dress. My family was already there, dressed in designer morning wear, clustered together and ignoring me as usual. "Now that everyone's here," Mr. Patterson began, adjusting his glasses, "we can begin the reading of Rose Eleanor Montgomery's last will and testament." The first few items were predictable. Family heirlooms to various cousins, small monetary gifts to longtime staff, donations to favored charities. My siblings shifted impatiently, waiting for the big revelations. "To my grandchildren," Mr. Patterson continued, causing everyone to lean forward. "To Isabella Montgomery, I leave my collection of legal books and journals." Isabella's triumphant smile faltered slightly. "Books? Just books." "To Oliver Montgomery, I leave my medical research papers and my father's old stethoscope." Oliver's face darkened. A stethoscope. Where was the money? And to Madison Montgomery, my family didn't even bother to look interested. What could Grandma possibly leave the failure? "I leave the entirety of Montgomery Enterprises, including all subsidiaries, properties, and holdings currently valued at approximately $400 million. The room froze. Mr. Patterson continued reading. But no one was listening anymore. My mother's face had gone ghostly white. My father's hands were shaking. Isabella's mouth hung open in a most unladylike manner. "That's impossible," Oliver finally sputtered. "Grandma didn't have that kind of money. She lived in that little cottage." Mr. Patterson smiled, pulling out a thick folder. "Actually, Mrs. Montgomery was one of the most successful silent investors in the country. The cottage was just for show. She owned significant portions of multiple Fortune 500 companies, several tech startups, and extensive real estate holdings, all of which are now legally transferred to Madison." I thought about all those nights in the basement when Grandma would teach me about stocks, about business strategies, about seeing opportunities others missed. While my family thought she was telling me fairy tales, she was actually grooming her successor. "There must be some mistake," my mother insisted, her voice shrill. "Madison doesn't know anything about running a business. She's not qualified." "Actually," Mr. Patterson interrupted, "Madison has been secretly running most of Montgomery Enterprises for the past 2 years, under Mrs. Montgomery's guidance. The company's value has doubled under her management." My family turned to stare at me, as if seeing me for the first time. The basement dweller. The failure. The secret businesswoman worth hundreds of millions. But this was just the beginning. What they didn't know was that Grandma's empire was far larger than even Mr. Patterson realized. The key she had given me would reveal much more than just money. It would uncover a legacy that would change everything. After the initial shock at the law office, my family's reactions were exactly what I expected. Isabella immediately started citing inheritance laws, looking for loopholes. Oliver called his friend who specialized in contesting wills. My parents shifted between begging and threatening. "Madison, darling," my mother's voice dripped with sudden sweetness. "We should discuss this as a family. You're not prepared to handle this kind of responsibility." I stood up, smoothing my thrift store dress. "Actually, I have a meeting to attend. Mr. Patterson, shall we?" He nodded, gathering his briefcase. "Yes, the board is waiting." "Board?" Isabella's voice cracked. "What board?" "Montgomery Enterprises Board of Directors," I replied calmly. "They're expecting their CEO." My father's face turned purple. "You can't possibly." "I've been acting CEO for the past year." I cut him off. "Grandma just made it official." I walked out of the office, leaving them sputtering in disbelief. But I wasn't done, not even close. Grandma's key was burning a hole in my pocket, and I knew exactly where it led. The cottage where Grandma had lived was exactly as she left it, small, quaint, seemingly modest. But I went straight to her study, to the old painting of roses that had always caught my eye as a child. Behind it was a safe. The key fit perfectly. Inside wasn't money or jewels, but something far more valuable: documents. Hundreds of them. Property deeds, stock certificates, corporate ownership papers, and a letter written in Grandma's elegant hand. "My dearest Madison, by now they know about Montgomery Enterprises." But that was just the beginning. While they were underestimating you, we were building an empire. The documents in this safe represent my true legacy: holdings in over 200 companies, properties across 6 continents, and controlling interests in some of the world's most successful corporations. Total value: approximately $2.8 billion. More importantly, they include evidence of your family's financial misconduct, your father's embezzlement, Isabella's insider trading, Oliver's medical insurance fraud. I kept it all, not for revenge, but for protection. Use it wisely. Love, Grandma. I sat in her old leather chair, reading through the documents with steadily growing amazement. The little cottage itself sat on land worth millions. The art on the walls, which my siblings had dismissed as cheap prints, were original masterpieces. My phone buzzed, multiple messages from my family. I ignored them and called Mr. Patterson instead. "Is everything in order?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "Let's proceed with phase 2. Within hours, news of my true inheritance hit the financial press. My family's reactions were immediate and desperate. Isabella arrived at the cottage first, her designer heels sinking into the gravel driveway. "Madison, we need to talk. I've been looking at the legal framework of the inheritance, and technically," I interrupted, "you should be more worried about the SEC investigation into your trading activities last year." She went pale. "How did you?" "Grandma kept excellent records," I said simply. just like she documented Dad's creative accounting and Oliver's insurance schemes. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "We're family." Family? I stood up, finally letting years of hurt surface. Was I family when you all made me live in the basement? When you mocked every attempt I made to better myself? When you treated me like something stuck to the bottom of your designer shoes? My parents and Oliver arrived just then, bursting into the study with wild eyes. "Madison," my father started, "let's be reasonable." Reasonable. I picked up one of the files from Grandma's safe. "Like the reasonable way you diverted company funds to pay for Isabella's law school while telling me college wasn't for someone like me. Or the reasonable way you funded Oliver's luxury condo while I slept on a cot in the basement." My mother burst into tears, always her favorite manipulation tactic. "We only wanted what was best." "No," I cut her off. "You wanted what looked best. You wanted perfect children you could brag about at country club lunches. You wanted success you could show off. Meanwhile, Grandma and I built something real." "Built?" Oliver scoffed. "You just inherited it." I smiled, pulling up the company's financial reports on my laptop. "See these profit margins? That was me. These successful acquisitions. Also me. While you were bragging about your achievements, I was quietly running one of the largest private investment firms in the world." Their faces shifted from desperate to shocked as they realized the truth. I hadn't just inherited wealth, I had helped create it. "The basement apartment," my father said slowly, "all those nights we thought you were wasting time online. I was earning my business degree, managing investments, running companies." I stood up, straightening my shoulders. "Grandma saw what you never did. That success isn't about appearances, it's about substance." "What are you going to do?" Isabella asked, her legal bravado crumbling. "The basement apartment is being renovated into a homeless shelter. The mansion is being sold. The proceeds will fund scholarships for underprivileged students. Montgomery Enterprises will continue growing, but with a focus on ethical investment and community development. And us?" Oliver's voice was small. "You get exactly what Grandma left you, books and a stethoscope. Consider yourselves lucky I'm not turning over the evidence of your financial crimes." They left eventually, shoulders slumped, designer clothes somehow looking cheaper than my thrift store dress. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, not just for me, but for every person they'd looked down on. The next few months brought changes they never expected. I moved the company's headquarters to a building that also housed a free medical clinic and legal aid office. I started a foundation helping underprivileged students pursue their dreams. The basement where I'd lived was transformed into a shelter that gave people a chance to rebuild their lives. My family? They adjusted, slowly. Isabella took a job at a public defender's office, humbling work that actually helped people. Oliver started volunteering at free clinics. My parents, well, they're learning that true worth isn't measured by country club memberships. I kept Grandma's cottage exactly as it was, though now I understand why she chose to live simply despite her wealth. Success isn't about showing off, it's about making a difference. Sometimes at night, I sit in her study, looking at the painting that hid her safe, and I can almost hear her voice. "They didn't see your light, sweet girl, but now the whole world does." And she was right. The basement dweller they dismissed built something greater than their superficial success could ever be, a legacy of real change. That's worth more than all the billions in the world.